The Council's mockery. The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with lights from 1,000 stars, each represented by a delegate in the room. The walls hummed with ancient energy, a reminder of the Council's long reign over the galaxy. Alien species from across the stars gathered, their forms as diverse as the worlds they hailed from. Some with scales, others with feathers, and a few with translucent skin that glowed faintly. The room was a symbol of power and unity, but today it was filled with laughter. At the center of the room stood the human ambassador, Captain Ryland Drake. Clad in a simple dark suit, he looked almost out of place among the extravagant attire of the alien delegates. In his hand, he carried a small black briefcase. The sight of the briefcase had been the trigger for the laughter that now echoed through the hall. "That's your weapon," bellowed Krovek, a towering reptilian alien with emerald scales that gleamed under the lights. His voice was deep and mocking. "A suitcase. What are you planning to do? File us to death with paperwork?" The laughter grew louder. Even the usually stoic delegates, like the crystalline Xarans, let out light chuckles that sounded like wind chimes. Ryland stood silently, his expression calm, almost amused, as he scanned the room. Another delegate, a multi-eyed insectoid named Pitar, clicked its mandibles in mockery. "Perhaps it's a container for Earth's famous sandwiches. Did you bring snacks for us, Captain Drake?" More laughter erupted. The humans were considered one of the weaker species in the galaxy. Their technology was outdated, their ships were slow, and their weapons were laughable in comparison to the advanced arsenals of the Council's member species. For years, Earth had been seen as little more than a backwater planet, tolerated because of its strategic location and plentiful natural resources. Captain Drake finally stepped forward, his boots echoing against the polished floor. The laughter began to die down as he placed the briefcase on the Council's central podium. He pressed a button on its side, and with a soft click, the case opened. Inside was a small device, no larger than a human hand. It was sleek, black, and featureless except for a single red button on top. Krovek squinted at the device and snorted. "That's it. That's the big human weapon you called us here to see. It looks like a child's toy." Ryland tilted his head slightly and gave a faint smile. "You're correct, Krovek. It doesn't look like much, but looks can be deceiving." The room fell into a curious silence. The ambassador's confidence unsettled a few of the delegates. Tar leaned forward, its mandibles clicking nervously. "What does it do, human? If this is some kind of trick, the Council will not take kindly to it." "It's not a trick," Ryland replied smoothly. "This device represents a leap in human technology. It's something we've been developing in secret for years, and today, I'm here to give you a demonstration." The Council members exchanged skeptical glances. It was rare for humans to claim such advancements, let alone demand the Council's attention for them. Ryland stepped back, gesturing to the device. "I'll need a volunteer, someone willing to test their strongest shield system against this weapon." Krovek let out another booming laugh. "You want to test that little gadget against my shields? Fine. I'll humor you, human." He turned to his aides and barked orders. Moments later, a holographic projector flickered to life in the center of the room, displaying a shield system around a virtual ship. It was the pride of Krovek's species, a barrier that had withstood attacks from some of the galaxy's most dangerous foes. "Activate the simulation," Krovek commanded. The shield shimmered into place, a glowing green dome that surrounded the virtual ship. "Let's see if your toy can even scratch this." Ryland picked up the device and approached the hologram. He held it carefully, almost reverently, as if it were a precious artifact. He pressed the red button. For a moment, nothing happened. The Council began to murmur, some chuckling again at what they assumed was a failed demonstration. But then, a low hum filled the room. The holographic shield began to flicker. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the Council chamber. Suddenly, the shield collapsed with a flash of light, leaving the virtual ship completely exposed. The room went silent. Krovak's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible, he roared. What kind of weapon is this? Rylan calmly placed the device back in the briefcase and looked around the room. It's not just a weapon, he said. It's a new kind of technology, something humanity has developed to protect ourselves in a galaxy that has often underestimated us. The silence was broken by Ptar, whose mandibles clicked nervously. What? What else can it do? Rylan smiled faintly. This was just the demonstration mode. There's much more it can do, but that's a conversation for another time. For now, let me ask you this. Do you still think it's a toy? The room was filled with unease. The laughter was gone, replaced by whispers and uncertain glances. Humanity, the species they had all laughed at for so long, had just demonstrated something none of them could explain or counter. As Rylan closed the briefcase and stepped back, he gave one final look at the council. You laughed at us. That's fine. But remember this moment the next time you consider underestimating humanity. We're not the species you thought we were. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. The demonstration, the shock of the first test had barely settled, yet the tension in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council was palpable. Delegates whispered in hushed tones, their disbelief and confusion reverberating through the room. The humans had done the impossible. Captain Rylan Drake stood at the center of it all, his calm demeanor unshaken, his expression betraying no hint of arrogance or smugness. He simply waited. Krovak, the towering reptilian delegate, still reeling from the failure of his species' prized shield technology, slammed his clawed fist onto the table. This proves nothing. The simulation. Bah. Let us see what your device does in the real world, human. Surely it cannot withstand actual conditions. Rylan nodded, his face still as composed as ever. If that's what it takes to convince you, I'm happy to proceed. But I suggest you prepare something worthy of this demonstration. The device doesn't discriminate between holograms and physical targets. Krovak snarled but motioned to his aides. Within moments, a real shield generator was brought into the chamber. It stood nearly twice as tall as Rylan, humming with raw energy. Its glowing core pulsated with an eerie green light, casting long shadows across the room. Krovak turned to Rylan, his sharp teeth bared in what could only be described as a mocking grin. This shield is the pride of my people. It has withstood asteroid collisions, plasma bombardments, even antimatter detonations. Your toy will be nothing against it. The other delegates leaned forward, eager to see the test. Some were skeptical, others silently rooting for the humans, if only to witness Krovak's humiliation deepen. The crystalline Xarans, whose bodies refracted the light in shimmering patterns, whispered among themselves, their melodious tones tinged with unease. Even Ptar, who had mocked Rylan earlier, was now quiet, its many eyes fixed on the device in Rylan's hands. Rylan stepped forward, holding the small black device. He paused, scanning the room. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is not a weapon of war. It's a tool of precision. Humanity designed it not to destroy indiscriminately, but to neutralize threats efficiently. You'll see exactly what I mean. He pressed the red button again, but this time, the reaction was immediate. The device emitted a faint hum, much quieter than before, almost soothing. A pulse of energy rippled outward, invisible at first, but detectable by the sensors embedded in the shield generator. The green light of the shield dimmed slightly, flickered, and then began to destabilize. Sparks erupted from the base of the generator as it struggled to compensate. Krovak's grin faltered. Increase the power, he barked at his aides. The aides hurried to comply, pushing the shield generator to its maximum output. The room grew hotter, the energy from the shield radiating outward in waves, causing even the most heat-resistant delegates to shift uncomfortably. But the device in Rylan's hand didn't falter. Instead, the hum deepened, its pulse growing more intense. The green shield began to fracture, its once perfect surface now riddled with cracks of pure energy. Finally, with a deafening crack, the shield collapsed entirely. The generator sputtered, smoked, and fell silent. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates stood, shouting over one another, their voices a cacophony of shock, anger, and fear. Krovac stared at the smoldering remains of his generator, his claws digging into the armrest of his chair. What is this sorcery? What have you humans created? Rylan calmly placed the device back into his briefcase. It's not sorcery, Krovac. It's science. Years of research, experimentation, and determination. While the galaxy mocked us, we worked in silence. What you just witnessed is a combination of energy manipulation and quantum interference. It doesn't attack the shield directly. It dismantles the very foundation of its energy field. A crystalline XRN delegate, their shimmering form shifting nervously, spoke up. This changes everything. If such a device were mass-produced, it could render our defenses useless. No fleet, no planet, would be safe. Precisely, Ryland said, his tone steady. But let me be clear, this isn't about conquest. Humanity isn't here to threaten or destroy. This is about balance. For too long, the galaxy has treated us as weaklings, as if Earth is just a pebble among giants. We've had to endure invasions, exploitation, and humiliation. This is our way of saying we will not be underestimated anymore. The insectoid Pitar clicked its mandibles nervously. If it's balance you seek, then why bring this device here? Why reveal it at all? Rylan met Pitar's many eyes with a piercing gaze. Because balance requires trust, and trust begins with respect. Humanity doesn't want war, but we will defend ourselves if pushed. This device is proof that we are capable of standing as equals, or perhaps more. A silence settled over the room, heavier than any shield. The delegates exchanged glances, each calculating the implications of what they had witnessed. The Galactic Council, the galaxy's most powerful and advanced coalition, had been shaken to its core by a species they had once dismissed. Finally, Krovac growled, his voice low and grudging. You've made your point, human. But I warn you, technology like this will attract enemies. If you think the galaxy will simply accept humanity's rise, you're mistaken. Ryland's expression hardened. We're aware of the risks, but let me make one thing clear. The next time someone thinks Earth is an easy target, they'll regret it. With that, he turned and walked back to his seat, leaving the council chamber buzzing with uncertainty. The laughter was gone. In its place, a new respect and fear hung in the air. Humanity had not just demonstrated a weapon, they had sent a message, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. Chaos in the council. The council chamber, once filled with smug laughter and condescending glances, had devolved into chaos. Delegates shouted across the room, their voices clashing like thunder. Old rivals accused each other of secretly aiding humanity, while others debated the implications of the demonstration. Fear was palpable, thick as the hum of energy still lingering from the collapsed shield generator. Captain Ryland Drake sat calmly at the center of the storm, observing the chaos with an impassive expression. The humans had been dismissed as insignificant for centuries, but now they commanded the room without saying a word. Silence. Boomed an authoritative voice from the far end of the chamber. High Chancellor Virex, an ancient being from the Xantari race, rose from his seat. His elongated form shimmered with golden light, and his presence alone was enough to quiet the room. The delegates turned toward him, their murmurs fading into uneasy silence. "This is no time for panic," Virex said, his voice resonating with an unnatural calm. "The humans have presented a challenge to our understanding of technological balance, but this does not mean they are invincible. Let us not forget the purpose of this council: unity and cooperation." A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but it was quickly drowned out by Krovac's guttural growl. Unity? Cooperation? Bah! The humans have just proven they are a threat to us all. You saw what that weapon did. It bypassed our strongest defenses as if they were nothing. What's to stop them from using it against us? Rylan rose from his seat, his movements deliberate and controlled. We could have kept this technology a secret, he began, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. But instead, we brought it here, to this council. Does that sound like the act of a race looking to conquer or destroy? Krovak snarled, baring his sharp teeth. It sounds like a threat in disguise. Share this technology, or we'll all face the consequences of your arrogance. A ripple of uncertainty spread through the delegates. Sharing technology was a delicate subject in the council. It had led to betrayals and wars in the past. The crystalline Xaran delegate, shimmering with unease, chimed in. If humanity has truly advanced so far, why keep it hidden for so long? Why now? Ryland's gaze swept across the room, taking in the faces of species that had mocked, belittled, and even exploited humanity for generations. We've always known our place in the galaxy, he said, his voice steady. We were the underdogs, the scavengers. While you traded your technologies and built your alliances, we watched and learned. We endured. And while you laughed, we worked. The answer to your question is simple. We waited until we were ready. The chamber fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the faint hum of the council's energy systems. For a moment, it seemed Ryland's words had begun to sink in. But then, a sudden flash of movement shattered the calm. A delegate from the shadowy Dralvak species, a race known for their cunning and treachery, lunged toward the podium where the black briefcase sat. With a flick of their long, wiry limbs, they snatched the case and darted toward the exit. The council erupted in shouts and confusion. Guards, stop them! Virex commanded, but the Dralvak was already moving too fast. Their translucent skin shimmered as they activated a personal cloaking field, vanishing from sight. Rylan, however, didn't move. He simply tapped a small device on his wrist. The briefcase, still clutched in the Dralvak's hands, emitted a sharp beep before locking itself down with a magnetic seal. The Dralvak, now partially visible, stumbled as the case became impossibly heavy, anchoring them to the ground. Do you think we didn't anticipate this? Rylan said coldly, his calm demeanor now tinged with steel. He stepped forward as the Dralvak struggled, their cloaking field flickering erratically. We've dealt with thieves before. The Dralvak hissed, their sharp teeth glinting as they released the case and tried to flee. But before they could take another step, the black device inside the briefcase activated. A wave of energy radiated outward, freezing the Dralvak mid-motion. They hung in the air, suspended by invisible forces, unable to move or speak. Gasps filled the room as the delegates stared, both horrified and awed. Even Krovak, who had been the loudest critic, seemed momentarily stunned. Rylan turned to the council, his voice calm but firm. This device is more than a weapon. It's a tool for control, for peacekeeping. It can neutralize a threat without causing harm. The Dralvak will be released unharmed once we can ensure there's no further danger. The crystalline Xaran delegate spoke again, their melodic voice tinged with awe. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Rylan gave a small nod. We had to. Humanity couldn't afford to be careless. Not in a galaxy that viewed us as weak. This is what happens when you push a species too far. We adapt. We innovate. And now we're offering the galaxy a choice. Work with us, or be left behind. The chamber fell silent once more, but this time, the tension was different. Fear still lingered, but it was tempered by a growing respect. Humanity had proven they were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. As Rylan deactivated the device, releasing the frozen Dralvak, he turned to High Chancellor Virex. The choice is yours, Chancellor. But know this, humanity isn't asking for permission anymore. We've earned our place at this table. Virex's golden form flickered as he considered Rylan's words. The council had been shaken to its core, and the question now wasn't just about humanity's intentions. It was about the galaxy's future, humanity's rise. The council chamber remained eerily quiet after Captain Rylan's words. The Dralvac delegate, now free from the device's invisible grip, slunk back to their seat, their translucent form quivering with shame. All eyes were on Rylan, the human ambassador who had turned the galaxy's perception of Earth upside down in a single meeting. Even High Chancellor Virex, whose golden glow usually radiated authority, seemed subdued. Rylan stood tall, exuding calm confidence as he addressed the room. For centuries, humanity has been the punchline of the galaxy. Primitive, weak, unworthy of spacefaring. Those were the words you used to describe us. His voice was steady, but there was a hard edge beneath the calm. And perhaps, at one point, you were right. We were behind. Our technology lagged, and our reach into the stars was limited. But while you mocked, we learned. While you fought amongst yourselves, we built. The crystalline Xaran delegate tilted their shimmering head. Why keep your advancements hidden for so long, Ambassador Drake? Surely revealing them earlier would have earned you respect. Rylan turned his sharp gaze toward the Xaran. Respect? No. If we had revealed our progress too soon, it would have made us targets. You all know how the galaxy operates. Weakness invites exploitation, and power invites fear. Humanity wasn't ready to defend itself, so we waited. We observed, and we prepared. Krovac, the reptilian delegate who had been humiliated earlier, sneered, though his bravado was now tinged with uncertainty. You're making a lot of bold claims, human, but a single device doesn't make your species a galactic power. Rylan's lips curled into a faint smile. You think this is our only advancement. You underestimate us still, Krovac. He tapped a small panel on his wrist, and the chamber's holographic projector sprang to life. A 3D image of Earth's solar system appeared, but it looked different from what the Council knew. Around Earth and its neighboring planets, an intricate web of satellites, orbital stations, and defense platforms glowed faintly. Massive starships, sleek and unlike anything seen before, patrolled the system. This is what we've been building, Rylan said, gesturing to the projection. A network of advanced defenses, fleets capable of interstellar travel, and technology that rivals even the most powerful empires in this room. You may have the advantage in numbers, but we have innovation. And unlike some of you, we don't rely on outdated traditions or overconfidence. The room erupted into murmurs. Some delegates leaned closer, scrutinizing the projection. Others exchanged worried glances, their minds racing with the implications. The humans, who had always been seen as the galaxy's underdogs, had quietly turned their home system into a fortress. A deep, melodic voice broke through the chatter. It belonged to Orathin, the elder representative of the Elkarin, a species known for their wisdom and neutrality. Your advancements are impressive, Ambassador Drake, Orathin said, their bioluminescent form pulsing softly. But what is your purpose in revealing them now? Surely this is not merely a bid for respect. Rylan nodded, acknowledging the question. You're correct, Orathin. This isn't just about respect. Humanity seeks balance. The galaxy is fractured, divided by old grudges and petty rivalries. The strong exploit the weak, and the Council turns a blind eye to injustice. We've seen it happen, and we've experienced it firsthand. Earth was nearly colonized by one of your member species just 50 years ago, and the Council did nothing. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The incident Rylan referred to was an embarrassment for the Council, a blight on their so-called unity. Rylan continued, his tone firm but measured. Humanity doesn't want to conquer. We don't want to destroy. What we want is to stand as equals, to have a voice in shaping the galaxy's future. And yes, to ensure that what happened to us never happens to another species again. High Chancellor Virex rose, his golden glow flickering with uncertainty. You claim to seek balance, yet the power you now wield could easily destabilize the galaxy. How can we trust that humanity will not misuse this technology? Rylan met Virex's gaze, unflinching. Trust is earned, Chancellor, and I understand your hesitation. But let me remind you, This council is not blameless. It has allowed corruption to fester and conflicts to escalate. Humanity has no interest in repeating those mistakes. Our goal is not to dominate, but to contribute. To prove this, I propose a gesture of goodwill. The room fell silent, the tension thick as Ryland's words hung in the air. He stepped forward and placed a data module on the central podium. Contained in this module is the blueprint for a technology we call the stabilizer matrix. It can enhance planetary shields, making them more efficient and nearly impervious to energy-based weapons. We are willing to share this technology with Council member species on one condition. The crystalline, Saran's refracted light pulsed with curiosity. And what condition is that? Unity, Ryland said simply. A true alliance. Not the fractured, self-serving agreements you have now, but a commitment to working together. Humanity is offering to be a part of this council, not as an outsider, but as an equal. Together, we can create a galaxy where strength isn't determined by who has the biggest fleet, but by who can uplift others. The chamber erupted once again, but this time the tone was different. Some delegates whispered in agreement, seeing the potential of such an alliance. Others, like Krovek, remained skeptical, their pride too wounded to concede so easily. As the murmurs swirled around him, Ryland stood firm, his expression unwavering. Humanity's rise was no longer a question of if, it was a matter of how. The galaxy would have to decide whether to embrace the humans as allies or risk facing them as adversaries. Either way, the balance of power had shifted, and there was no turning back. A hidden threat. The council chamber's tension was like a storm waiting to break. Captain Ryland Drake's bold offer, a blueprint for game-changing shield technology, hung in the air. Some delegates whispered urgently among themselves, their tones betraying both intrigue and unease. Others, like Krovek, seethed silently, their pride wounded by humanity's audacity. But beneath the surface of debate and doubt, a darker undercurrent stirred. Suddenly, the soft hum of the chamber's security systems faltered, replaced by a low, vibrating hum. The lights flickered, and holographic displays distorted into jagged lines. Delegates glanced around, their confusion quickly giving way to alarm. High Chancellor Virex's golden form shimmered uneasily as he stood. What is the meaning of this? Before anyone could respond, a booming voice reverberated through the chamber, its tone dripping with disdain. Enough of this charade. The delegates turned toward the sound, their gazes locking onto a shadowed corner of the chamber. From the darkness emerged a figure clad in sleek, black armor that glimmered faintly with shifting, otherworldly hues. It was Nirak, the leader of the Zivik Coalition, a secretive faction of warlike species that had long opposed the Council's authority. Their presence in the chamber was unexpected, and by all accounts, impossible. Nirak strode forward, their towering frame radiating menace. Their visor reflected the faces of the stunned delegates. "You speak of unity, human," Nirak growled, their voice distorted by their helmet. "But unity is a lie. Power decides the galaxy's fate, and you have overstepped your place." Ryland remained composed, though his sharp gaze flicked briefly to his wrist device, subtly scanning the unexpected intruder. "I wasn't aware the Zivik Coalition had an invitation to this meeting," he said, his tone cool. "Or perhaps you've decided to skip diplomacy altogether." The room erupted into murmurs. The Zivik Coalition was infamous for their advanced military technology and aggressive expansionism. They were a constant thorn in the Council's side, but even they had never dared to infiltrate the chamber before. Nirak raised a hand, and with a snap of their fingers, the hum of the chamber's systems ceased entirely. The Council's security field, designed to protect against any threat, fizzled out like a dying ember. The delegates gasped, realizing their vulnerability. "Do you see now?" Nirak said, their helmet tilting toward the Council. "Your so-called unity is a farce. Even here, in the heart of your power, you are defenseless. And now, this human, this upstart race, threatens the balance further with their reckless ambition." Krovek, ever eager to shift blame, snarled, "This is the humans' doing. Their weapon disrupted our systems. They brought this chaos." Nyrek's laughter echoed coldly. "Do not be foolish, Krovak. The humans may be bold, but they are not to blame for your weakness. This was inevitable." Rylan stepped forward, unshaken. "Bold words for someone who hides behind sabotage. If you're here to make a point, get to it. Otherwise, I suggest you leave before you embarrass yourself further." The room fell silent as Nyrak turned their reflective visor toward Rylan. For a moment, the tension was suffocating. Then, with a sharp motion, Nyrak raised their arm, revealing a device embedded into their gauntlet. It glowed with a pulsating red light, alien symbols scrolling across its surface. "You wish to demonstrate strength, human. Very well. Let us see how your vaunted technology fares against the might of the Zivik." With a gesture, Nyrak activated the device. A surge of energy rippled through the room, forming a dome of crimson light around the chamber. Rylan's wrist device buzzed with warnings as the air grew heavy, charged with power. The delegates watched in horror as their communication systems and personal defenses were rendered useless. "Your shield technology," Nyrak said, their voice filled with mockery, "will crumble before this. It's designed to consume energy fields, rendering them unstable. No planet, no fleet, no species can withstand it." High Chancellor Virek stepped forward, his golden glow dimmed by the oppressive dome. "You've gone too far, Nyrak. The Council will not stand for this." "Council?" Nyrak sneered. "The Council is weak, fractured. You are relics clinging to outdated ideals. The Zivik Coalition will bring order to this galaxy, starting with the destruction of Earth." The mention of Earth drew murmurs of shock from the delegates, but Rylan's expression remained unreadable. He tapped a sequence into his wrist device, activating a hidden communication channel. "Order to Fleet Command," he murmured softly. "Prepare countermeasures. Lock coordinates on my signal." Nyrak turned to him, their visor gleaming ominously. "And what of you, human? Will you kneel before the inevitable, or will you meet your end with defiance?" Rylan smiled faintly. "You're right about one thing, Nyrak. Power does decide the galaxy's fate. But you've made one critical mistake." Nyrak tilted their head. "And what is that?" "You underestimated us," Rylan replied. With a swift motion, he activated his wrist device. The black weapon from earlier sprang to life, emitting a pulse that rippled outward, counteracting the crimson dome's energy. The dome flickered, then shattered like glass, leaving the room bathed in silence. Nyrak staggered back, their gauntlets sparking with damaged circuitry. The chamber erupted into chaos again. But this time, it was the delegates cheering. The humans had neutralized the Zivik threat with precision and speed, proving their technology was more than talk. Rylan stepped closer to Nyrak, his voice low but firm. "Run back to your coalition. Tell them Earth isn't a stepping stone. We're the wall they'll break against if they try." Nyrek's visor reflected Rylan's unflinching gaze before the armored figure retreated into the shadows, disappearing as abruptly as they had arrived. As the security systems flickered back to life, Rylan turned to the stunned council. "This is the galaxy we live in," he said. "One where threats like the Zivik lurk in the shadows, waiting for weakness. Humanity isn't here to dominate. We're here to ensure survival. Together, we can stand against this chaos, or divided, we'll fall." The delegates, shaken but inspired, began to murmur their support. Humanity had proven their rise was more than just strength. It was a beacon of hope in an unstable galaxy. The final warning. The Galactic Council chamber had become a battlefield of whispers and uneasy alliances. The abrupt retreat of Nyrak, leader of the Zivik Coalition, had left a void filled with fear and doubt. Delegates who once mocked humanity now sat with furrowed brows, weighing their options carefully. The humans had demonstrated not only power but precision, resolve, and an unsettling ability to outmaneuver even the most fearsome of threats. Yet the galaxy was not a place where respect came easily. especially for a species once dismissed as insignificant. High Chancellor Verex, his golden glow now faint with exhaustion, raised a hand to silence the murmurs. We must decide. Now, what is to be done with this newfound balance of power? Humanity has shown its strength, but strength alone cannot dictate the path forward. Captain Drake, what guarantees can you provide that your technology will not destabilize the galaxy further? Rylan, who had been standing silently at the center of the room, finally spoke. His voice was calm, measured, yet carried the weight of a warning. Chancellor, the galaxy has already been destabilized. The Zivic Coalition's intrusion proves what humanity has known for decades. Your system of alliances is fragile, your protections insufficient. You speak of guarantees, yet for centuries, Earth received none. No assurances, no alliances, no help. We survived on our own. And now we are here to ensure that others don't have to endure what we did. The crystalline Xaran delegate tilted their shimmering head, their refracted light pulsing with curiosity. You've made your case for unity, Ambassador Drake, but unity does not come without trust. Why should we place faith in humanity, a race that has only now emerged from the shadows with weapons that could change the balance of power? Ryland stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the room. Because we've earned it, and because you don't have a choice. A ripple of tension passed through the delegates at the bluntness of his words. Ryland continued, unflinching. Humanity isn't offering ultimatums. We're offering survival. The Zivic aren't the only ones watching. There are factions, empires, and shadow powers waiting to exploit your weaknesses. This council's inability to act decisively has painted a target on the galaxy itself. We've seen it. We've prepared for it. With a tap on his wrist device, the holographic display reactivated, this time showing Earth's fleet in motion. Massive ships emerged from their orbital platforms, sleek and bristling with advanced weaponry. They were not just ships of war. They were ships of deterrence, brimming with technology designed to neutralize threats before they could escalate. This is the Vanguard Initiative, Ryland said. Earth's first line of defense, and a demonstration of what we bring to the table. Every ship is equipped with adaptive shielding, quantum field disruptors, and planet-scale stabilization arrays. These aren't just tools of war, they are tools of peace. Imagine fleets like these protecting not just Earth, but every system represented in this room. Krovac, still nursing his bruised pride, snarled. And what price will humanity demand for this? Generosity, control, tribute. Ryland's expression hardened. We don't want control. We want commitment. Commitment to a unified defense initiative, to sharing knowledge and resources, to building a galaxy where no species has to fear annihilation. Humanity is offering to lead, not to rule. But make no mistake, if the Council hesitates, Earth will defend itself alone, and we will survive. The room fell silent, the weight of his words pressing down on every delegate. Even Krovac's fiery gaze faltered as he realized the implications. Earth was no longer asking for a place at the table. It was declaring itself a pillar of the galaxy's future. Orathin, the elder Elkaran representative, whose bioluminescent form pulsed softly, spoke at last. Your vision is bold, Ambassador Drake, but it also carries risk. A unified defense would require unprecedented cooperation and trust. It could just as easily lead to internal conflict as it could to peace. Rylan nodded, acknowledging the point. That's true, Orathin. But ask yourselves this. What's the alternative? Division. Isolation. The Zivic and others like them won't wait for you to get your act together. Humanity's rise isn't the destabilizing force here. It's the failure of this council to adapt. The crystalline Xaran delegates' light flickered, their tone cautious but intrigued. And what of those who oppose this unity? Those who see humanity's rise as a threat rather than an opportunity? Ryland's gaze sharpened, his tone cold but resolute. Then they'll face the consequences of that choice. Humanity isn't here to conquer, but we won't tolerate sabotage. To those who refuse unity, Consider this your warning. Earth will protect itself and its allies, no matter the cost." A hush fell over the chamber as the words sank in. For the first time, the delegates saw humanity not as a fringe player, but as a central force shaping the galaxy's future. It was a sobering realization. High Chancellor Virex finally spoke, his voice heavy with consideration. "The Council must deliberate. Your proposal will not be dismissed lightly, Ambassador Drake. But understand this. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired." Rylan inclined his head, a gesture of both respect and finality. "I understand, Chancellor. Humanity is prepared to give trust, but we will not beg for it. The choice is yours. Decide wisely." As the Council prepared for closed deliberations, Rylan stepped back to his seat. The holographic display faded, leaving the chamber bathed in an uneasy quiet. Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the decisions of the beings within. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy stood on the brink of a new era. An era defined not by the old powers of the past, but by the unexpected rise of humanity. The next move was up to the Council, but one thing was clear. The humans had spoken, and their final warning would not be ignored. Humanity's triumph. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as the delegates emerged from their private deliberations. The deliberation process, which usually stretched for days, had concluded in record time, a testament to the urgency of the moment. Delegates wore grim expressions, their decisions weighing heavily on their shoulders. Captain Rylan Drake stood at the center, unwavering, a lone human facing the combined powers of the galaxy. High Chancellor Virex's golden glow flickered as he stepped forward to address the room. His voice, though steady, carried the weight of uncertainty. "The Council has reached a decision. Humanity's proposal for a unified defense initiative has been accepted by a majority vote. However," he paused, and the room collectively held its breath. "This agreement comes with stipulations." Rylan's eyes narrowed slightly, but he gave no outward sign of emotion. "I'm listening, Chancellor." "The Council agrees to your terms of unity and cooperation," Virex continued, "but we demand oversight. Humanity will share its technologies, including the stabilizer matrix, with this Council. The Vanguard fleet will act under joint leadership, not solely Earth's command." The room murmured in agreement, but not everyone was satisfied. Krovac, the ever-defiant reptilian, stood and growled. "And if the humans refuse, what then? Shall we kneel before them as they impose their will upon us?" Rylan's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "Humanity has no interest in imposing its will, Krovac. But understand this, we have no intention of surrendering our sovereignty. We will share, we will cooperate, but Earth's defenses remain Earth's alone. If that's a problem, then perhaps you'd like to test your fleets against ours." The chamber fell silent, the weight of Rylan's words suffocating. Krovac sat down, his scaly face twisting in frustration, but he made no further objections. Orathin, the elder Elkaran representative, rose with a calm dignity. Their bioluminescent glow pulsed rhythmically as they addressed the room. "Captain Drake, your confidence is admirable, but the galaxy does not need more conflict. Let us not turn this unity into a contest of power. The Council is prepared to work with humanity as equals, but trust must flow both ways." Rylan inclined his head. "Agreed, Orathin. Humanity is prepared to stand as equals, not as rulers. But trust must be earned on both sides. If this initiative is to succeed, then it must be a true alliance, not a leash around Earth's neck." High Chancellor Virex nodded. "Then it is settled. The Council recognizes humanity as an equal member and supports the formation of the Unified Defense Initiative. This marks a new chapter for the galaxy." The chamber erupted into applause from some delegates, cautious murmurs from others. But before the moment could solidify into a sense of relief, alarms blared throughout the room. The holographic display activated, projecting an urgent message. A Zyvic fleet had entered the system. The air grew thick with dread as the delegates stared at the display. The Zyvic coalition ships were massive angular behemoths, bristling with weaponry and enveloped in a crimson energy field. Their presence was an unmistakable act of aggression. The lead ship transmitted a message, and Nyrak's distorted voice echoed through the chamber. "Council members, your time has come. Humanity's rise threatens the balance, and you have aligned yourselves with weakness. Surrender now, or be annihilated." The council delegates erupted into panic, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of fear. Virex turned to Rylan, his golden glow dim with worry. "Captain Drake, do you have a plan?" Raylan, unshaken, tapped his wrist device, sending a signal to Earth's vanguard fleet. "Plan. Chancellor, humanity doesn't need a plan. We have preparation." The holographic display shifted, showing the vanguard fleet emerging from hyperspace. Sleek and menacing, Earth's ships took formation with precision, their advanced weaponry gleaming against the void of space. The flagship, Erebus, loomed at the center, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Ryland spoke with calm authority. "Council members, stay back. This is humanity's fight." Nyrak's laughter echoed again. "You think your fledgling fleet can stand against the might of the Zyvic? Foolish human." But as the battle commenced, it became clear who had underestimated whom. The vanguard fleet's ships moved with uncanny precision, their quantum disruptors neutralizing the Zyvic's energy fields. Advanced targeting systems picked apart the massive Zyvic ships, striking weak points with surgical accuracy. Rylan watched the battle unfold from the chamber, his expression cold and calculating. Humanity learned long ago that survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest. The Zyvic rely on brute force. We rely on strategy. The tide of the battle turned rapidly. The Zyvic fleet, so confident in their dominance, found themselves outmatched. One by one, their ships were destroyed or forced into retreat. Nyrak's voice came through the comms, filled with rage. "This isn't over, human. The Zyvic will return." Ryland's reply was calm but carried the weight of finality. "And we'll be ready." As the last Zyvic ship disappeared into hyperspace, the chamber erupted into cheers. Delegates who had doubted humanity now looked at Rylan with newfound respect and perhaps a hint of fear. High Chancellor Virex stepped forward, his golden glow bright once more. "Captain Drake, humanity has proven itself today. You have not only defended Earth, but the very ideals of unity this council was founded upon. The galaxy owes you a debt of gratitude." Rylan nodded but remained stoic. "Gratitude is appreciated, Chancellor. But what the galaxy truly owes itself is a commitment to change. Today, we've shown that unity is possible. Let this be the beginning of a new era, one where strength is used to protect, not to oppress." The council chamber filled with applause, genuine this time. Humanity, once dismissed as a backwater race, had risen not just to meet the galaxy's challenges, but to lead it into the future. For the first time in centuries, the stars seemed brighter, not as distant lights of division, but as beacons of hope. Raylan turned and left the chamber, his mission far from over. The galaxy was watching now, and humanity's story had only just begun.